Hello and welcome to CJC Adventures. Carl here, Brother Craig's with me, and we're still in Liverpool and overlooking Thomas Rigby's. There's a bit of a link there. We're going to do a bit of a tour today, of course, having taken a look at some of the sights and sounds of this wonderful city, and of course I'm sure the Beatles will be mixed in at some point during the stay, of course. So without further ado, let's go and see what we can find on this tour of Liverpool. Let's go.
Also, the Radio City Tower, you can go up there, it's about £7. I think I pay £6 as a guide for my guests, but I think it's about £7 or £7.50. Your ears might pop, but it's fantastic views. You can see all the way across Wirral and all the way across to, you'll see all the way down to the docks. There might be a cruise liner in it, and you can see all the way across to Wales. It's actually a really nice thing to do. The entrance was made even longer because a lot of owners of buildings didn't trust the tunnel and didn't want it built directly under their buildings, so they had to take a circuitous route. I got that word out. Normally can't say that word. They had to take a circuitous. They see, I can't do it to get underneath. So there's two reasons that it's longer than it actually functionally. Originally didn't serve alcohol. It's the original pub in the village, but they put it to a vote. Do you think it serves alcohol now? Obviously, yeah. So we'll go up. We're going to go straight up. You see where you see that low bridge, no coaches? We're going to turn left up there. So the workers had everything they needed, including the bowling green that you see on the left, and beyond the bowling green, there's more than one bowling green, and beyond, they obviously thought bowling was good for workers, but beyond the bowling green is a building that was originally used as a school. Now, the higher up in the management chain you were, the bigger the house you got. Makes sense, doesn't it? So we're going to turn left along here. It is lovely and quiet, and a lot of the roads, they don't have road markings on either, because it's like its own conservation. They're trying to maintain it as much as it was. If you wanted to get the train over here and spend more time here, you can get the train from Liverpool. It drops you at the train station with coming up to on the right, but immediately on the left you'll see a tea room. So that was originally the post office. Anything behind us? And if we just pause here. Now as we pull off, I'm pointing to it, there's a house that's got a slight overhanging, and it looks like mock Tudor. It's slightly overhanging. That house was copied and built at, it's gone out of my head, I'll look it up in a minute. There was like the equivalent of the Ideal Homes exhibition was held in Glasgow. I'm talking, in Victorian times. And they recreated that house as part of the exhibition. So I'm trying to remember what the exhibition was called. It'll come back to me. So we'll carry on, and we're going to go slowly down here. The building on the left that has a sign out says Port Sunlight. That was originally the NatWest Bank. And I want you to remember that the Gladstone Hall on the right. So as we bear left round this corner, you'll see Gladstone Theatre on the right. That was originally the men's dining room. Another bowling green, see? The men's dining room. There. And as Gary slows down again, look to your right and you'll get an appreciation of the scale of the operation and how forward-thinking he was, putting aside the ethics of the situation, that he was importing palm oil from the Belgian Congo. So it was meant to represent the whole community. The reason we've gone all the way around is so that now that Gary goes straight up this time, you see on the left, you see the church. And somebody asked me this the other day, is it Catholic? And I said, no, knowing what I know, it's probably going to be C of E, but I looked it up and I think it's United Reformed.
Lady Lever Art Gallery. So, right then, let's go and have a look, eh? Very, very expensive paintings these, no idea how much. Just think, who painted these and who put them all together? Oh, some money's worth in here, isn't it? Yeah, so you've got all the...
prices, some of it is.
Probably so. Is he?
1765.
The Devil's Face, eh? Devil.
The cousins don't make anything like this now, do they?
It's a bit unlikely, unless it's come back. Goddess of Mercy. All the lanterns up here, it's what they have in China, right?
Yeah.
Got a rabbit on there, look. And Chinese copper figures there. Napoleon. Oh. Lamb behind the mask. Strange to look at though.
Oh, it is all.
Well, Wedgwood, I really know, don't I? Born in Staffordshire. This is Port Sunlight, Craig. Lovely place here. Very nice here. So that's where they first performed. The Beatles as them.
And Ringo Starr was born and grew up in the Liverpool 8 district of Liverpool.
So the original lineup.
And he was quite poorly during his childhood and spent a lot of time in a convalescent home, actually on the Wirral, here where we are, not here in Port Sunlight, but a convalescent home on the Wirral. And while he was in the convalescent home with, I think it was tuberculosis, while he was in the convalescent home, he was asked, do you want to join the hospital band? And he said, well, how can I join the band? I can't play an instrument. And that's where he taught himself and learned to play the drums while he was convalescing as a child.
That's what they said, Rory.
So I hope you enjoyed Port Sunlight. Now we're going to head towards the ferry.
Nice to be on a ferry, eh, Craig?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, ferry Cross the Mersey, Craig. Most famous ferry in the world. Right? Sing a bit of Gerry Marsden, my money, of course. One coming in, it might be on there. Can be sometimes. souvenir.
To stand on the seats or sit on the ship's rails. We ask cyclists to alight after all foot passengers have left the vessel. The ferry service as we know it today was created by the engineer
were named after the days of the week, Monday to Saturday. The fourth most, Thursday.
Tranmere Beach series. It's like it's where all the Wirral is, like an industrial part out there.
The long piers with the big gantry cranes on the river are part of the Tranmere oil terminal. Ferry, there was a great throng forming a scene not unlike the 4th of July. There were bands with music and banners, and a small procession after them, and a school of charity children enjoying the festival. In 1914, the building was designed in the style of a 16th century Italian palace.
A lovely view from
and
there,
was
right,
once the offices of the
Albert
famous
Dock.
shipping line owned by Samuel Cunard, who operated the first regular transatlantic lines between Liverpool and New York
The Tate
in
building line.
1840. Other famous shipping companies followed.
However, when the seal was lost in the 18th century, the artist commissioned to design a new seal. This interpreted the images
Putting his brakes on now. It's always good though, isn't it? When you get off the ferry and, you know.
John Lennon lived with his mum till he was about 5, then he went to live with his Aunt Mimi. She was ever so proper, but when his Uncle George died, she kept the house on and took in lodgers. So we're not going out that far today, but anybody who does want to go to Strawberry Fields tomorrow and have a look at John Lennon's house from the outside, let me know. I can signpost you how to get there and where to get the bus.
This is the famous sign, Craig. This is the famous Penny Lane.
John Lennon.
Oh yes, yes, definitely.
Right, does anybody want me to take a picture? Yes, please.
Actually come here today, Paul McCartney and James Corden, and on YouTube that is
Penny, ladies and gentlemen, was a slave trader. However, I think it's highly unlikely that they will change the name of Penny Lane. So who's watched Carpool Karaoke that Paul McCartney did with James Corden? If you haven't watched it, have a quick Google. Keep looking to your left, keep looking to your left. There's a sign on the wall, Penny Lane. Paul McCartney signed that sign when he came here. Within 24 hours, the council had put a piece of perspex up.
Protected.
And so, now the gates from Strawberry Fields were nicked once. I'm surprised that's never been, you know, somebody come in the middle of the night trying to take the stone out. But if you watch Carpool Karaoke, as well as some of the things I've shown you already and some of the things I'm going to show before I finish today, it would mean so much to watch it now, because you go, Jenna showed us that. Jenna showed us that. And it's really nice to watch it after you've seen it. And see more places as well. And it did become one of the quickest, one of the fastest videos ever on YouTube to reach 1 million views. So it's really highly watched. Now Penny Lane isn't just any lane. They are the words of Mike McCartney, who was Paul McCartney's brother. And there was a piece of land came up for sale, and building developers were trying to buy it. And Mike McCartney, along with Colin Hampton, who was the original drummer for John Lennon and his band, the Quarrymen, raised the money to keep the piece of land, and I'll show it to you in a moment. But just before that, immediately on the right, as Gary slows down a little bit, you'll see that was the town hall, on the church hall, immediately on the right, the big grey building. And then the money that they raised bought the piece of land that funded, immediately on the right, that is the Penny Lane development just through those gates. And it's just a little visitor attraction in St Barnabas Church. Paul McCartney came back to be best man for his brother, Mike, at the church. And again, as we pull straight across here, also in front of the church is a statue of John Lennon. That is a statue of John Lennon that is doing a world tour. They took it away. Clearly.
That's the church.
So here's the funny thing. I grew up very close to here, went to school near to here, got the bus to school from here myself. Okay.
It's a barber shop.
And if I said to my friends,
Barber shop.
I'll meet you in Smithdown Place.
Paul McCartney went in there, do you?
Because the address of all these buildings surrounding us is Smithdown Place. I'll meet you and they go, what? Where? I go, you know, the bottom of the church road north. And they go, you mean Penny Lane? So we've just driven down the road that is called Penny Lane. But the song was written about Smithdown Place. Yeah. So there is a barber selling photographs. You can see it through the bus stop, and you'll see it as we pull off. Black and white, and there's a barber's pole still in the window. Very sadly, it's empty, because you know how difficult it is to keep businesses going now. I hope it stays as a barber shop. So it's empty at the moment, so fingers crossed, yeah. Okay, and then as we pull off in a minute, the other thing that you'll see, as Gary's he's not gonna pull off yet. Doing too many jobs here at once. I'm doing too many jobs here at once. Okay, let me focus. On the right, yeah, that's the shelter in the middle of the roundabout. So this was the bus shelter. Poppies are selling flowers, yeah. That's the bus shelter. So what used to happen was, and you'll see it later when we look at where the Beatles went to school, they used to come out of town and they'd swap buses here. Yeah. And then they'd get on a different bus, because further down that way, we're not going all that way out today, but you can easily go on the bus tomorrow. They'd get on the bus, and Paul McCartney would get on the bus that went in that direction, and John Lennon would get on a bus that went in that direction. So to get to here, they'd get the 86 bus, and then they'd change buses. His dad ran off to sea. Now his mum was called Julia, lots of red hair, red lipstick. She was a bit of a girl. Don't know how else to put it. His dad ran off to sea. She played the banjo. All John Lennon's friends loved her when he got a bit older. But she took up with another man called Johnny Dykes and was not divorced. John Lennon's dad hadn't been gone 5 years, and she was living with another man. Other children came along, and John was living with them. And of course, in the 40s and the 50s, that was just not acceptable. Look to your left, keep looking to your left. And on the corner you'll see a round fronted building, a curved building. And that building was a bank. And it hasn't been used as anything else since, because it's not even years, it is months. Because the building's not in disrepair, the council can't get a compulsory purchase order on it. So at the moment we're stuck with that.
That's the bank, look, Strawberry. Oh, it's the bank from Penny Lane.
And pop themselves back in the studio.
Stopped touring by then, the Beatles.
A number of reasons they did that. Help, possibly autobiographical. Help, I need somebody. Help, just anybody. Because they thought it was dangerous, that something was going to happen either to them or to the fans. Because the technology and the crowd control simply didn't exist. So literally, at the stadiums in America, they were playing, and a microphone like the one I'm using now, which was used to make the public announcements around the stadios, that is how they amplified the sound around the stadium. There was no, the technology didn't exist to make the music they wanted to make and perform live, and they thought it was dangerous, and they were probably worried about their own mental health. Many gravestones on top as well, and you will catch sight as we go past of a dome in the gardens, and that is a memorial to William Huskisson, and he was a major investor in steam powered trains. So when Stephenson's rocket did its trials to show that it was more efficient to pull a train, power train by steam than pull it by horse, he was a major investor in that. So the first day that they ran from Liverpool Lime Street, the first day that trains were operating, he was aboard the train. This was an individual residence. So when I say this area then went downhill and was bedsits and nobody wanted to live here, and if you wanted a lady of the night in the Liverpool in the 1980s, this is a spot to come. And along the side of the cathedral, that's where they all hung out before they took it online. That was an individual residence owned by Blackburn, who was a shipping magnate of the time. Like I'm sure all of you were, you sat your 11 plus and you went to grammar school. Well, Paul McCartney and George Harrison were clever, yeah? And they passed their 11 plus and they went to the Liverpool Institute. And there was amplifying equipment that went missing from the basement, and the masters were like, well, we know who's took that. And Harrison used to go in yellow waistcoats and get in trouble because he'd like customise his uniform. While they were at school there, John Lennon was in art college. Now he'd been to Quarry Bank School, and he left Quarry Bank School. Remember I told you about Aunt Mimi? There's always a test, you know, you've got to listen because it doesn't make as much sense. So I told you about Aunt Mimi. Can you imagine how shocked and upset and disappointed Aunt Mimi was when John left school without a single qualification? To coffee houses, and they do philosophy and poetry, and John Lennon was like, I can do better than that, and he formed his own group of philosophers called the Dissenters, and they used to meet in that little pub. And if you go inside there, it's like a little shrine to the Dissenters. Coming up on the right next is the Philharmonic Hall that is home to the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra. Now the big yellow building. The price of fame is I can't have a quiet pint in my favourite pub, that was it. And if I haven't already inspired you to watch the Carpool Karaoke with Paul McCartney, that's where we did the surprise pop-up gig when he came and did Carpool Karaoke. Or to go and work on the sea. And what does an English person call a paddy? Yeah, call an Irish person a paddy. So we call this the Metropolitan Cathedral of Christ the King. We call it Paddy's Wigwam.
Oh, Beatles story, or it's all there. Tell us about the life and that Daviton artifacts and so it's interesting, eh? Tells you all about him there, though. Born James Paul McCartney, John Lennon. George Harrison's first guitar. I think that's it, eh? Tell some tale. Ringo Starr's drums. Sit sometimes, I'll have a look at them. Young name, wasn't it, John Lennon?
Oh, it was
A famous club in Hamburg, that was a Star Club. That's actually in Liverpool, the picture. It won't be original, will it? You tell Coy somehow.
yeah.
The Ollies look, Billy Ferry crate. Grapes. Look at that, look. The grapes, look. Liverpool's local brewery since 1780. Still exists, do it?
Yeah.
Of course, the famous cavern replica, but that's how it once looked. Very popular place for more reasons than one. Could they make a replica of something? What's, you know?
In 1961, a young businessman called
Had leather on then, look.
Oh, yeah. It's a big best
That is On the 27th of May 1973, after numerous problems, the cavern closed its doors forever, despite the vote of a courageous protest from fans. A few years later, the warehouse above was demolished to make way for the Mersey Rail line. This never happened, however, and in 1984 a new shopping complex called Cavern Walks was built on the site, part of which includes a cavern club and a pub called Abbey Road. What's happened to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Got my records of me, Craig. That was his real cute, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He wanted to be a tailor, didn't he?
Yeah. Flynn was the fifth Beatles brought in Paul McCartney.
Abbey Road, London. This is the replica of the crossing to Abbey Road Studios. This is replica where they record everything in Abbey Road Studios. The same sort of space they probably get. You get a clock Maybe up against him. Actually signed, signed by all four of the Beatles. That's got to be worth some money, ain't it? A rarity. Oh, that's what it was like, when they had to hold them all back. Mind you, sounds fun, but I bet it will.
Oh yeah, very well.
Interesting, eh? Relatively. I'm going to sign that. That's the writing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the autograph for this.
Oh.
Sign that over.
That's your real signature. Actually signed it. So when they went to America, right, that'd be the plane, what it looked like, wouldn't it? You sit there and, you'd be on a plane and, as I say, I conquered America there, so.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's like when they went to America, like this part, and that's the sort of celebrations they'd have to welcome them into the country, like, so. And then all like the photos from when there was like on the Ed Sullivan show and all that worried, so.
Yeah.
That's when there was on the Ed Sullivan show, look, Craig. Yeah, there was, some people here, did they? So them say it was actually from one of the stadiums, the Shea Stadium in New York. Unbelievable, you know. Oh, that's it. That's, and that was used in the Revolver album, and obviously that's Eleanor Rigby, that's a real gravestone used as a prop in one of the videos of the Beatles. There's a prop from Strawberry Fields, obviously not the real Strawberry Fields, that's in the other side of Liverpool, but this was actually one of them. So them and the replicas of the actual suits, what they wore in that Sergeant Pepper. Did they actually play on stage or nothing though, did they, with any of the suits? But them and the exact replicas, are they? So, good album that was, Worried Sergeant Pepper. It was a really good album, didn't listen to that. I know, I'm like, them actually real toys, probably the same upcaps that was originally used for, like, in the 60s and their own, so. This is the Yellow Submarine, or let's say, known to sing by Ringo Starr. This is inside the Yellow Submarine, this is what it would have looked like. So, in Pepperland, as Craig just been laughing about. And John Lennon's glasses. John Lennon's glasses. You think about those wore them, actually, you know. Just think what David and Sid like them glasses, you know, because he did, you know. That's when they broke up all the time, so. I bet everybody went mad for that day though when that happened.
Oh yeah.
He was out, right? He played in Russia, did he? And so I think the Beatles were one of the first ones to play in Russia, were they? So
yeah.
So he wrote that, didn't he? Like,
taking a lesson.
Songwriting. So. That's where he was from, mate. They put his name on there, don't they?
Yeah.
So it was all like Ringo's All-Star Band. It's like how they become now, like, you know. So he does still tour, though, now and again, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, them and Ringo Starr shoes, they're okay. What's it, just say what size they am? Is there a shoe size in it?
I don't know, I'll make it out, they look very big, do they?
Yeah, so his drumsticks, sorry, I signed them there, eh? He's, looks just like that, Ringo Starr. John Lennon's last piano. So he sat there and played that day. That's worth some money, eh? Just, they lay in bed there, they, and protested, so. Wicked that was all.
Was on, good evening.
Well, to nobody, was it? Just entertaining people, or, you know.
You all like funny people, like said things like that. Tommy, it's just his way, he'd have been nothing by it. It's just, just
no harm in him.
Steve comments. Yeah, of course they will.
Good John Lennon. Of course, you've got all the pictures of John Lennon and the famous one with his New York t-shirt on and walking down New York, etc. Yeah, also I've got a statue of him myself just here. Oh, it's actually a good likeness of him, actually. So, yeah. So, this is like a replica to the room that's sung Imagining. And just there in the spectacles that John Lennon wore, his orange spectacles. He wore a lot of spectacles in his lifetime. I do think that this is the actual piano from the Imagine video. But this is actual replica to the room where he was. So them and the glasses that he wore in the Imagine video.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, they haven't bent up, because I got thrown in the bin there. They are. It's good that they got retrieved. So that there. Oh, I remember that when I watched that video again. Imagine, you know. So a very good scene, that is it's been looked after though, you know. So he wore that in the Imagine. Well, it's like a. Well, it was just say it was his jacket or it. He wore that tall though, was he, John Lennon? Oh. Of course, George Harrison was known for going to India, and he sort of stuck with it after. And this was one of his guitars that he frequently played, George Harrison, and he would sit there and play it. So, could you imagine, no pun intended, but this was actually his guitar. Wow. And that's it for today on CJC Adventures. Hope you've enjoyed this long trip around Liverpool and the Beatles story. We've had a good tour around, haven't we? We've saw Port Sunlight, we've saw related Beatles sites, and of course here with the story, the official story of the Fab Four. Until next time, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please remember to subscribe if you'd like to see more. Until next time, goodbye for now.